this is your favorite Loaf here, and welcome to Loaf's Top Picks. Now before we begin, I've just got a few things to say regarding the ranking. This ranking is just overall in general. This is not just an HV ranking, nor is it just a Galactic Assault ranking. This is just overall, how good is this hero? What makes them a better choice over others? What situations are they better in over others? Etc. And of course, this is my opinion, so if you don't agree with this list, feel free to leave your own list down in the comments. And with that, let's jump right into number 22. Taking the number 22 spot, i.e. the worst hero in Star Wars Battlefront 2, is Rey. Now I know there aren't really a whole lot of standout terrible heroes. I mean, even including Rey, there isn't that many bad heroes, but, well, no, that's actually false. Rey is terrible. If you know me, you'll know that I will never voluntarily choose Rey. I just don't enjoy playing her. Her dash strike is completely outclassed by something such as Han's shoulder bash and Grievous's claw rush. Her mind trick was great about 3 years ago when I didn't even know how to roll. Now all you have to do is just hold down block if you've got a saber, and if you don't have a saber, well, spamming circle is also a good trick too. And finally, Insight. I've got to be honest, I don't know what this does. I think it just turns your screen blue, and it kind of changes the HUD. Other than that, Rey doesn't have any good traits. There's just no reason for me to pick her. She's got fine stamina and lightsaber damage. I already mentioned, all of her abilities are pretty terrible, and she isn't a great pick. Now I know Rey can do really good, and I've seen some really good Reys over the last couple months, but even while I tried to get good footage here of Rey, but I definitely struggle with that. So overall, Rey has no redeeming factors, and there's just no situations where I'd want Rey over any other character, making her by far the standout worst hero. Coming into the 21st spot is Chewbacca. Now Chewbacca isn't that bad, he is usable. He's got a good combination of abilities that do work very well together. His shock grenade is very good, all three abilities are very good, and his Furious Bowcaster can hard punish with his shock grenade. It also does seem to go through blocks, and his charge slam is amazing in small corridors or tight situations, as his charge slam can decimate troopers, even finish off heroes too. The problem here of Chewie is just his basic bowcaster. It's too slow, it's too weak, it's too imprecise, it's too hard to aim, and although yes it doesn't build up heat, it's still just not good enough. Now the reason Chewie does not take last place is he actually does have some strengths. He can do some good damage if you've got good aim, and his charge slam, as already noted, it's very good in small corridors, but just his blaster. As gun villains and heroes rely on their blaster so much, they have to be using that blaster all the time, but Chewie, his blaster is not good, it is the standout worst. And really without a good blaster, it doesn't really matter what your abilities are, because your abilities have a cooldown, your blaster does not. So overall, just due to a terrible blaster, and his abilities aren't actually that good. Yes, they can be good in some situations, but they're too situational. Chewie is kind of like a lesser version of Dooku. He's only good in HVV, but even in HEV he isn't that bad. He's one of those heroes who on paper looks really good. I mean, his abilities look really good, but playing him is not fun, and his damage is just not high enough for me. Rolling into our number 20 spot is BB-8. Now I actually kind of like BB-8. BB-8's actually pretty fun to play. His L1 resistance backing is probably one of the best scanning abilities, as not only does it reveal enemies to you and your nearby allies, but it also makes all enemies in the nearby vicinity take more damage, which is just great. And his L1R1 cable spins easily with best ability, and a pretty big AoE around him, you're going to do constant damage. Not only is the AoE size pretty big, but the duration's very long, and the damage dealt is amazing. Combining his cable spin with his resistance backing ability is fantastic. You can take down a full health villain faster than they realize. And his R1's pretty useful too. It's got some nice utility, whether as a get out of jail card, or a finishing off through block card, or just a general movement option. Now the problem here with BB-8 isn't due to his abilities. So I actually like BB-8's abilities, but the problem is how easy he is to counter. If you've got a saber, all you have to do is just get behind him and spam. There's nothing he can do about it. It's kind of a shame. Now, the last thing about BB-8 is his basic weapon. Very similar to Chewie, BB-8's weapon is terrible. I could maybe say this is the worst in the entire game. The range is bad, the damage is bad, it doesn't have any stunning ability, the stamina on this thing is bad. It's just not great. So yeah, BB-8, he's fun to play, and he's got some really neat abilities, but he suffers from damage on his basic shock prod and how easy he is to counter. He's also very situational. He really only excels in crowd control. Really anything else besides that, he cannot do, especially 1v1s. Never take on a full health villain with just BB-8. In the 19th spot is BB-9E. Now, I know this is definitely another controversial pick, as BB-9E is widely regarded as by far the worst hero. You know what? I think there's more to BB-9E than meets the eye. Well, yes, his damage output is debatably the worst in the entire game, but there definitely is some hidden little tricks and secrets about all of his abilities. To start, his smoke screen has many different uses. Not only is it great at hiding you, since you have such a small stature, but it's also good for a scanning ability, and like most scanning abilities, reveals enemies nearby to your teammates as well. His R1 charge up isn't that great, probably his worst ability. It just gets that golden overheat for just a little bit of time, but what I actually noticed is that charge up actually affects you too. So it gives you some of that golden overheat as well, not just your teammates. It's also good for getting some nice battle points if you are looking for that, or XP. And then his shock spin can be one of two different things depending on what star card you use. If you use the damaging star card, it can be good for finishing off heroes. That's definitely his best damaging star card and best damaging ability. Or if you're on a map such as Hoth, Camino, Bespin, where there's a lot of edges that you can throw people off, you can do the faster star card, if I'm correct, that makes the enemies launch 4 meters further. And this is really what makes BB-9E pretty good. He's very good at knocking heroes off of ledges. And I love all the additional utilities he's got. And his shock prod, the damage is definitely terrible, probably half the damage of BB-8, but it does stun enemies, so it's very good for kind of your support unit that you are. Overall, he's a support unit with terrible damage output, but he's got some hidden little secrets like the golden overheat and of course knocking heroes off ledges. People definitely underestimate BB-9E, and I definitely think he deserves a spot no other than the 19th spot. In spot number 18 is Captain Phasma. Now, Captain Phasma, I think we all know the one thing she can do, and that is, of course, the infamous droid camping, where you and your team hide by her First Order Sentry droid the entire game. And now, this is just because of how good this droid is. Not only does it have over 1,000 health, but it also has a basic blaster attached to it, essentially, and it can shock. As you all know, all shock abilities are amazing, and Phasma can really benefit off this shock. Her blaster has a very fast rate of fire. You can drain headshots on the enemy team. Anything else, Phasma can't really do. Her staff strikes are fine as a melee. I think it's worse than just this basic commando droid's melee, so that's not great. But her survivor is also incredibly good. It gives her, with the right star cards, 60% damage reduction and I think 250 bonus HP. Without this, it would be a lot harder to droid camp. Other than that, there really isn't anything else to say about Phasma. The one thing she can do is droid camp, and she does that really well. She can easily take on Saber heroes 1v1, but other than that, she can't do anything else. She can't be offensive, and you'll see here in this footage, I don't leave my droid, because I can't leave my droid. You need a lot of aim and a lot of practice to be good at it, and I'm just not that good at it. Overall, not very fun to play. Good at droid camping, but I'm good at 1v1ing, especially lightsaber heroes. Other than that, she's very weak. In the 17th spot is Lando. And now, yes, I did want to put Lando higher. Lando is one of my all-time favorite Star Wars characters, just because he's got so much wit and personality. But none of that really transitions over to Battlefront. In Battlefront, Lando is not that great. But he's got some really cool abilities, and possibly he has the best string of abilities that combo together in the entire game. And I like that a lot. Lando feels like Lando. His smoke grenade is pretty useless. I haven't really found a use for this yet. It's kind of annoying, and I kind of like that. I wish it had something to it, maybe an explosion, then smoke. His disabler is really good. Another great shock ability. Really, all shock abilities are great. I really don't need to repeat that. And then, of course, his L and R1, his sharp shot. This ability is amazing. It's like 250 damage. It doesn't go through block, which it really should, but it's really good for finishing off heroes, as Lando can be very unexpected sometimes. But that's it. It's really easy to counter a Lando, and his blaster, just because it does so little damage. It's like a water pistol, as I've heard multiple other people say, and I completely agree with that. It doesn't do any damage, and it cannot go long range at all, despite being called a night sniper. Overall, Lando's got a really good string of abilities that really do combo together really excellently, but his blaster is terrible, making him very easy to counter. This does not mean that I've not seen really good Landos, and really anyone with the golden Lando skin, you know they're good, and you know they're just going to dominate you. Maybe I just need more practice. Without any further practice, Lando is going to be firmly taking the number 17 spot. Flying into the 16th spot is Boba Fett. Now, Boba Fett can be either one of two things depending on the way you play him. If you play him as this flying mercenary, you're never going to hit anybody from above, just admit it. It's too hard to hit anybody with this basic blaster from afar. But if you play him kind of as this melee brawler and you're up close, you can really get some good kill streaks with Boba Fett. His L1 concussion missile, I used to think this ability was really bad, but lately, I've been seeing some Boba Fetts really use it to their advantage. If you use this on like a 4v4 situation, it will destroy the enemy team. It will really cripple their vision. His R1 Rocket Barrage, I used to think this was his best ability, but it's okay at best. The spread makes it way too hard to hit from long range, and its damage isn't that wonderful. But of course, it does work as just a good conventional block destroyer. And his L1R1 for the Hunt might be one of the best abilities in the entire game. Not only does it work just as a normal scanner, but it also gives Boba Fett unlimited flying for a short period of time, totally making him the fight or flight response character. Now you'd be thinking, with a good blaster like Boba's and some great abilities, how is he this low on the list? And that's really because the way you have to play him. He struggles too much in the air, which is really the way you kind of have to play him, and I really don't like that. He should be more suited to long range attacks, with his basic gun being like a rocket launcher and maybe having less spread in all of his attacks. If Boba Fett had just a little bit better flying attack powers and less of ground attack powers, he could definitely be up higher on the list. Overall, he's a very good character, and really this is the part of the list where characters start getting good, and I actually start to use these characters regularly. So overall, good abilities, good blaster, but bad playstyle. In the number 15th spot, we have Leia Origami. Now, to the best of my knowledge, I'm pretty sure that Leia is a pretty well-rounded character, a pretty well-accepted character by now. I think the community seems to like her. But that does not mean I like her. Despite all of her buffs, I still don't think Leia's all that great. They didn't really change the way you play Leia, and that's defensive, campy, dull, and boring. Now, I know that everybody loves her new L1 thermal detonators, but I see it as just a basic infantry ability, but whoa, it's ×3. Pretty lazy choice if you ask me. And I did really like the buffs to her squad shield. I love the healing properties it got. Definitely makes it a lot more useful, but still campy playstyle. In her E11D, I know this is supposedly the best blaster in the entire game, but I'm not actually a big fan of it. It seems way too hard to aim, and I know it has a good damage output, but I feel like it's over before I even started to use it. I think it has a timer of like 10 seconds. Leia just encourages too much of a campy playstyle for me to really have fun with, and you'd wonder, well, how are some characters like Bosk good, because they're campy? Well, Leia can't really choose between campy and offensive, making her kind of that weird line in between. Her standard blaster also seems to be very, very strange to me. It seems very unresponsive, that sometimes when I click the trigger, nothing happens. Her secondary fire is a joke compared to Iden. It is way worse in all ways. Overall, I'd rather have a Leia on my team than be a Leia, as she's kind of that weird defensive, supportive character that's kind of offensive, but just not offensive enough where you can really get some good kill streaks and do some good damage with Leia. Coming into our 14th spot is Finn. Now, Finn does not have the raw damage output as other heroes such as Han or Leia, but of course he is a very supportive unit, meaning that he helps your team more than really he helps himself. And with the right team that's going to stick near you, your team can become unstoppable. To start, his left ability, Deadeye, is definitely an amazing ability. It's essentially like an auto-aim button, but with increased damage and rate of fire. This is great for getting some nice damage in, and for heroes such as Grievous who have bad blocking stamina, you can steamroll them. His right ability, Undercover Team, is also really good. Not only does it reveal enemies and keep your team hidden from enemy scanners, but it also gives insane damage reduction of the right star cards. You can give your entire team up to 35% damage reduction for like 5 whole seconds. Lastly, his middle ability, Big Deal, is another great buff. It gives your team 100 additional HP, faster ability cooldown, and overheat. Best of all, both of Finn's buffs actually help himself. Now you're probably wondering, why does Finn not take a top 10 spot? Sounds like he's a lot of fun to play, he's got some good damage output, and he's got a lot of great buffs. Well, the problem is, once you separate Finn from your team, he's not that good. As already mentioned, he just doesn't have the damage output other heroes have, nor does he have the health or survivability. And that's really the only thing holding him back. But if your team's going to stick by you, and you've got the right Big Deal and Undercover Team star cards, you can become unstoppable, and your team can essentially never die, winning you a 35-0 match. But overall, just stick with your team, okay? Because otherwise, Finn's not that good. Number 13 is Darth Maul. Now, Darth Maul is possibly the most aggressive hero in the entire game. If you play Maul where you sit back and you use your block, and you just kind of attack when necessary, you're not going to be very good with Maul. But if you go this aggressive speed demon, dashing everywhere, throwing your saber everywhere, swinging everywhere, you are going to be very powerful. This is of course due to his definitely helped by his abilities. All his abilities encourage this fast, speedy, damaging playstyle. His R1 spin attack is good, so as all spin attacks are, good for a movement option, great for finishing off low health infantry or heroes, but also definitely really good as a movement option. With this, Maul can become very fast, and I think it's actually the longest distance spin move in the game. His saber throw, I'm pretty sure, damages him away there and back, and with the right star cards, it can become pretty powerful. I love how it can be used in the air, and of course used while running, giving him a little bit more range. And of course his L1R1 choke throw is very versatile. It can go from finishing a hero off to dealing a lot of damage to a lot of infantry, to of course chucking a hero right off a cliff, which is of course the very notorious thing Maul can do. And yeah, this makes Maul a very well-rounded character, a very well-balanced character, and when I think hero in Star Wars Battlefront 2, I really think him, not underpowered, not overpowered, and a lot of fun to play. But the one thing Maul does suffer from, possibly due to his very erratic playstyle, is his health bar. He only has 700 HP, and he seems to go down a lot faster than other heroes do, so really be careful with Maul, because the way you have to play him very aggressively, it's going to cost you a lot of health. Yeah, Maul is a lot of fun to play. He's got some good damage output, he's very fast, he's very aggressive. The problem that he struggles with is health and health regeneration, so always watch your health bar, and if you are watching your health bar, maybe playing a little bit conservatively, you can dominate with Maul. Taking the 12th spot is Count Dooku himself. Now Dooku can either be one of two things depending on the way you rank. If you rank only HEV, he's outstanding. If you rank Supremacy and Galactic Assault, he's not terrible, but he's definitely outclassed by others due to his lack of crowd control. Still, not making him that bad. As I'm ranking neither Supremacy nor HVV, Dooku takes a pretty comfortable 12th spot. Not amazing, but not terrible at all. Now, my favorite part about Dooku is his insane damage output. With the right Duelist star cards and Exposed Weakness star cards, you can melt heroes. I mean, Exposed Weakness plus Duelist, holy cow, it's so good. Duelist is definitely an amazing ability. I think it reduces stamina costs and way increases damage, plus increases swing speed for a short period of time, and Exposed Weakness is definitely great. It makes your enemies go down even faster. And Lightning Stun is definitely underused. It's good for knocking people off platforms, it's good as it kind of is a stun, and it's very good for actually crowd control, which most people really don't realize. So you'll see there, I just melted Obi with just a couple swings of Duelist from behind. Dooku gets behind you, you are dead regardless of health. The only really problem I don't like of Dooku is, regardless of pro or not, the only thing you really see Dooku do is just spam with Duelist. That's it. And it's very annoying to fight against. Is really, unless you have insane blocking stamina, you really can't block it, and so you're kind of playing Dooku's game. You just run away from him because you're too afraid to actually fight him. Dooku is just a lot of fun to play, and he's a really well-designed character, but I really don't like how his entire playstyle is just spam, 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 spam. If he had a little bit more depth to him, I'm sure I'd like him just a little bit more. Therefore, maybe putting him a spot in the top 10. Shy of our top 10 is Obi-Wan Kenobi. Obi-Wan follows one word: defense. His whole kit revolves around a heavily defensive strategy while still maintaining some offensive power too. Obi-Wan is the highest blocking stamina, if I'm not incorrect, without star cards, and with the perfect defense and safeguard star cards, his block becomes borderline unpenetrable. Now about his offense. People totally are sleeping on Obi-Wan because they don't think he has enough offensive power. That is completely false. Since his all-out push one-shots heavies too, it's amazing for crowd control, and his defensive rush is also really good too. It's especially good at finishing off blaster villains, as it actually blocks blaster shots while you're rushing forward, meaning they really can't damage you from the front. And his Jedi mind trick is yet another thing people are sleeping on. It completely prevents them from breaking your block, essentially, because they can't use their special block breaking abilities, meaning you can use this and then just walk right towards them and destroy them. Take a character such as Phasma. As I already mentioned, the only thing Phasma can really do is droid camp, and if you take away her droid using his Jedi mind trick ability before she can even place it, she's got nothing she can do, and you can easily take her out without taking a single point of damage if you just block and attack accordingly. Overall, I love Obi-Wan. I love how defensive he is, and you can really just block anything. Any sabers coming at you, you can block their entire stamina and still have half your stamina bar to retaliate, and I love the safeguard star card. His offensive power isn't that great, and I don't love his movement capabilities too much either, really just holding him back from being top 10, but he definitely earns this number 11 spot. Taking the first spot of our coveted top 10 is Kylo Ren. Now, I actually really like Kylo Ren. Going back through all the characters here, he definitely jumped up a lot higher than I originally thought he would be. Kylo Ren's actually a lot of fun to play, and he's definitely one of the characters that has a pretty strong emphasis on dueling, and he's definitely pretty good at that, although he does lack in some other areas, such as crowd control and group scenarios. To start, his pull is definitely amazing. I love how it can be used in the air. It really makes just kind of like this cool trick shot. Although it really doesn't add a whole lot of extra effectiveness, it makes it a lot more fun to use. And pulls, I think, are just better than pushes. You want the enemy to be towards you if you've got a saber. Otherwise, you'd want them to be far away from you. And just a pull brings them right to your massive laser sword. His freeze is great. It's probably the best of the freezing abilities because it just freezes for so long. Whether you freeze them and leave them there, or separate them from their teammates, or just get 2 easy swings from behind, freeze is always a great move. And lastly is Frenzy. It's a move that I really want to like, but it's not that good. It can be easily rolled out of it. Its damage is pretty minuscule, and it can be blocked for barely any cost whatsoever. Overall, my big problem with Kylo is just his punish game. If he pulls you or freezes you, he really can't do a whole lot to you, really, besides frenzy you from the ground, and that's not even that great of an option, as it's pretty easy to avoid. Although he does have some synergy, and you can combo his abilities, just not too much effectiveness. That's really all that's holding him from a higher spot. Overall, he's definitely a lot of fun to play, and I really do recommend trying him out if you enjoy dueling. Number 9 is Iden Versio. Now, Iden is always great, whether you're doing some co-op grinding, or you're in HVV, or you're doing some duels, or you just want to have a good time and some supremacy. Iden is always there for you. She's very well versatile. She's got a very well-rounded kit and a lot of tactical abilities that really force you to play pretty smart. Although her abilities aren't the best part of her, she's got an amazing blaster that makes up for that. Her blaster is easily the best in the game. It does insane damage per second with the normal fighter, and the secondary fire, not only does it go through blocks, it does about 120 damage, easily finishing off heroes. And with this, she's got a heavy punish game. She's also pretty good at all ranges with this move. Her stun is definitely amazing, definitely because she can capitalize it, unlike Kylo, and she can really capitalize it. She can get about 450 damage to you if she just rains headshots with her normal fire, and a secondary fire at your feet will finish you off if you've got less than 100 health left. Her shield isn't that great, good for fleeing, and her pulse cannon's just utterly useless. And really, that's it. If she had a better L1R one, maybe something such as Phasma's Survivor ability or something like that, maybe like a rocket launcher she could pull out, she'd be a lot better. But the pulse cannon, it's pretty bad. With a great blaster, you'll see she's the exact opposite of Chewie's. Pretty bad abilities, but great blaster, and you'll see that great blaster does mean better than abilities. She's a lot of fun to use, very versatile, very tactical. She's also really good at getting through block, but man, that pulse cannon, oh man, don't even use it. In the 8th spot is Han Solo. Now, Han Solo is definitely a character that took me by surprise. At the beginning, I didn't really like him, and I always thought that people thought he was completely overrated, but going back through all the heroes again, I really like Han Solo. He's very good at all things, no glaring weakness, and a lot of glaring offensive. He's also really good at sabers, going against sabers, which is something a lot of gun heroes really struggle at, because they can easily decimate you with their saber. There's really nothing you can do to block it, but Han clearly did not get the memo. His detonate charge is amazing. You want to knock somebody off a cliff? Do it. You want to do 250 damage to someone? Do it. You want to finish someone off through their block? You can do it. The detonate charge does it all. Probably the best throwable item in the entire game. And I also love his rolling shoulder tackle thing. It comes out completely by surprise, and everyone seems to block it, even though it goes right through your block. Like, what are you thinking? It also has got a pretty quick cooldown for how good it is, and it's good for escaping too. Something that most gun characters just don't have. Finally, his sharpshooter ability. I mean, this ability's meh. It's just like faster shooting and a little bit more damage. Not great, didn't really need to happen, but really all you need is Han's 3 roll star card and his detonate charge, and you can do wonders. As already said, he's very good in everything, no matter what you want to do. He's just like Iden, and he's particularly fun to play in HPV. I definitely recommend you go try him out. In the 7th spot is the cyborg creature himself, General Grievous. Now, going back through this list here, I was very surprised Grievous took the 7th spot. I easily thought he'd be top 3, but really, looking at his kit, it isn't as good as I originally thought. Of course, it is still amazing, and really all I'm saying here is just it's not as good as I originally thought. His thrust surge is, I thought it had a much longer range. You could like snipe people, and you really can, but it's still less of that kind of assassin feel and more of an in-combat thing. It does good damage, and it's got good range still. His Claw Rush, this is so much fun to use. I love this ability. It's so satisfying, wiping out hordes of troopers in Supremacy. It's so good in HVV, and I'm so glad it does not just one-shot blaster heroes anymore, because that was really annoying, and nobody liked that. And of course, his Unrelenting Advance. I mean, every character's got to have a bad ability, right? And Grievous, this is definitely Unrelenting Advance, although it is pretty tanky, which leads me to the next part, how tanky Grievous is. The Flesh's Weak Star card, Grievous gets about 50% damage reduction at low HP, making him very hard to take down. You can also have the Beating Heart Star card, giving him even more health regeneration, almost as much as Obi. But yeah, Grievous is tanky, and he's got some offensive power, but he's just a little slow, and he can't block at all, which I really think is kind of annoying for my liking. If he had a little bit more blocking stamina, had a little bit of a better jump, and maybe making Unrelenting Advance just a little bit stronger, but it's still got a lot of use, because against a blaster hero like Lando, who can't get behind your block, you can shred right through him, as he can't actually damage you from the front. It's also pretty cool, because I don't think anything can damage you from the front, whether it's a saber or a well-timed grenade. So definitely gotta use this ability if you're at low health. Number 6, we have the Chosen One, Anakin Skywalker. And now Anakin Skywalker, I feel good about this ranking. I originally thought he should be a little bit higher, but looking back on it, he's not that amazing. He's that character when you first get the game, you're like, whoa, cool, amazing, he's so powerful. But when you really get to be a little bit better at the game, you realize he's just so easily countered. He's not that effective at really anything besides group trooper mode, such as Supremacy or Galactic Assault. But he really does excel there, and it's probably my best pick for Galactic Assault and Supremacy. Anakin's pull is not as good as something such as Kylo's, since you can't use it in the air, and it's less of a pull and more of like a damaging pull. His Heroic Might is always fun to use, still to this day. It's so powerful. I love knocking people off ledges with this thing. And And I also love how you can charge it, waiting for the perfect time to strike. His passionate strike is also really good. It's great in duels, but duels is really the problem where Anakin does not excel at. As long as you keep your guard up, his force abilities aren't going to hurt you, and as long as you don't stay right in his face, his passionate strike just won't be able to hit you. He is pretty tanky, but with his low amount of stamina, I'm telling you, you just can't use him in duels, and that's the only thing holding him back from being better. He's just got some great crowd control. He's a lot of fun to use, and he's definitely good for beginners too, with his big AoE moves and big large swipes. Definitely recommend him if you're new to the game. Really past that, you can't get too much more utility out of him. He's like a character that really can't scale with skill. He's just the same thing no matter how good you are, but that same thing is still really, really good, definitely earning a number 6 spot. Starting out our top 5 is of course Bossk. Now Bossk has been through it all with me. Ever since when I first got the game, to 6 months ago when I got back into Battlefront, till today, Bossk has always been there for me. He's always been that standout legend that I always enjoy playing. He's definitely one of the best in my opinion. I love his defensive camping strategy, but he does it so much better than the other defensive characters because he's able to move around and not just stay in one spot the entire time. I love his mind. I like just that sense of traps there. You're leading them right into your traps. You can close off hallways or corridors or even big spaces such as Yavin 4 here. You can totally take over command posts with these. His gas grenade is also great. Just so good at so many situations. Whether you want to stop health regeneration from a hero, finish off some infantry, take out large groups of anything, the gas grenade can also do all of that. And really that's what makes Bossk so good. Nothing can counter him, and he can counter anything. He's so well-rounded, and probably the most versatile character in the entire game. He also has Predator Instinct, which is another very versatile move. It's definitely the best scanning type ability in the game, as you can see through walls. You can see every enemy in the entire map, regardless how far away they are. Plus you get this super cool grenade launcher thing that can deal devastating damage and easily wipe out groups of enemies or heroes. Overall, Bossk is just so well-rounded. He can be defensive, he can be offensive, he can be campy, and he's just so much fun to play. I also love how he really has the only glorified sniper blaster. Although it's pretty terrible at close range. I wish it was more of a shotgun at close range, something like the Peacekeeper from Apex Legends, but other than that, he's definitely fantastic, and totally deserves the number 5 spot. Number 4 is Luke Skywalker. Now, Luke Skywalker is another one of those characters that everybody just agrees on. Everybody knows that he's a ton of fun to play and that he's really, really potent. Luke, like Bossk, can cover so many situations, and that's really what you'll notice. So the top 10, especially the top 5, you'll notice that all these heroes are not situational at all and can just cover so many different options because they're so well varied. Luke is definitely the fastest character in the entire game, and then his mobility definitely helps him out. Definitely gives him a huge advantage. You play him kind of as an aggressive Maul with his 2-second health regeneration timer, which is just absolutely fantastic, making Luke very tanky despite 0 armor and a pretty low health regeneration pool. His push is definitely one of the best force abilities. It does so much damage and it comes out so quickly. I have to love that you can use it in the air. It's so satisfying doing that, although it does give it 0 extra utility whatsoever. His repulse isn't as good as some of the other abilities like Anakin's Retribution, Heroic Might, but it's still really good for crowd control, and it's not terrible for finishing off heroes, but it still does have that use. And of course his Dash Strike. If you're using this as an attack, you're using it all wrong. You have to use this to make Luke turn into a complete speed demon. Especially if how fast his saber swings are. Holy cow. And if the Intensifier star card that increases your star swings up to 166 damage, Luke is so hard to kill because he can finish you off before you can do any damage to him. He's also very spammy, and I really would recommend him for new players. He's another great, well-rounded hero that's so good at so many things and just is not easily countered at all, which is definitely the growing trend of these top 10. Taking the bronze medal trophy is the entire Senate, Emperor Palpatine. Now, Palpatine is a character where somebody who knows how to use him will totally agree with the top spot, but anybody who does not know how to use him will be like, what? He's bottom tier. This is because he's definitely one of the harder heroes to use, possibly even the hardest. And if you really aren't good with him, I definitely recommend you try him out in arcade or co-op. His damage potential is insane, and although his survivability is not great with his pretty low health and health regeneration pool, if you utilize his very long dashes and jumps, you can become this slippery little electric rat. His basic lightning is so strong. If you use both triggers at once, you will get a term known as unlimited power. His stun is definitely one of the best. All stuns are great. Chain lightning is a quick way to get lots of damage and take out big groups of enemies. And the Dark Aura is definitely an ability I've actually seen a lot of use in. It can work as a conventional scanner, good for stopping health regeneration, good for finishing off heroes that are just trying to block you. He's definitely like a beatdown character. He's fast, he's powerful, he's potent, but he's not easy to master, and I will say that. Once again, very situational and very hard to be countered. My boy Palpatine definitely takes the third spot. Coming in at second place is, of course, Darth Vader. I mean, who doesn't like Darth Vader? On any tier list or ranking I saw, he's always top 5. He's just that good. His survivability is completely unmatched, with 950 base health with just one star card. Combined with his rage ability, you can get up over 1000 HP, making him incredibly hard to take down. Also, all of his abilities work really well together, and they are also all fantastic. Essentially like a defensive hero, and he's very good for new players getting into the game because he's just so easy to use and can dominate really with anyone, no matter how good you are at the game. His choke is still to this day one of the most satisfying things, especially with the noise of just ripping someone's throat out. It's just so good. Lightsaber throw is great. It does damage there and back, so it's like a fiery red hot boomerang. Of course, fueling the rage ability gives him more health, damage, swing speed, everything. Darth Vader is one of those characters that you just play once and you instantly know, yeah, okay, this guy's good. Definitely one of my favorites, and I really do recommend using him. He's just so easy to master, and he's so hard to take down, really meaning you won't ever actually die. It's a ton of fun to play. He's got some really powerful abilities, and he's pretty well versified too. He can handle a lot of situations. Definitely earning him the second spot, and as I created this list, I really knew he'd take 1, 2, or 3 undoubtedly. Taking the number 1 spot, i.e. the best hero in Star Wars Battlefront 2, is of course my main Yoda. Now when I first got back into the game about 6 months ago, I never thought Yoda would be top tier, just because his damage was just completely outclassed by someone such as Han or Luke. But no, there's way more to this little green guy than meets the eye. Let's talk about his survivability. With the Size Matters Not star card, probably the best star card in the entire game, literally heals you for taking damage, making his health regeneration pool almost on par with Obi-Wan. And with his amazing block that covers such a wide area, it's very hard to just shoot him down using conventional methods. He also has an incredibly small stature, fast speed, and a dash move, making him very hard to hit, especially with all the lag online. With all these combined, you are nearly invincible, and it's incredibly hard to die as Yoda. You have to actively try to get hit. I also love how you can just power up his force push by enemies shooting at it. It's like a no-you thing, and you push them right into the fiery depths of Mustafar. How powerful his force push can be. Stash Strike is fine, it does good damage, but it's not that great. It covers a good range. His presence ability is especially good with the Size Matters Not star card, and it's always just a great ability to have. I love buffing my team. But overall, he's just so much fun to play, and he's just so good at everything. As I've said, everyone in these top 10 spots is very well varied, but Yoda is the most varied of all. He is good at absolutely anything, and will always be good at absolutely anything, making him my favorite Star Wars Battlefront 2 hero. Now, I'd like to end this video off with the same way I started it, by just saying a few things. First of all, thanks to everybody who's watched this far to the end. It really does help a lot, and I really do appreciate it. Also, huge thanks for 30 subscribers. As a small content creator such as myself, who streams about once a week on a half-dead game, and 30 subscribers is such a colossal milestone. I thank you guys for all of your support, and we hit 30 subscribers in just 3 months, way faster than I originally thought. Now, of course, this video did take a very long time to make, so if you enjoyed it, please hit the like button. If you did not enjoy it, please hit the like button. Also, huge thanks to LucasArailius for all the help, not just on this video, but overall. I don't know where I'd be without all of his help. You definitely want to go check him out. He's one of the best Battlefront 2 streamers out there and also uploads some pretty cool videos. Definitely want to check him out in the description because he's definitely such a great guy. As always, it's been your favorite Loaf, and I'll see you guys in the next episode. Bye.